ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio tonight. So tonight we are going to try to paint this, which is just an aloe vera plant, but from a slightly different angle than we would normally paint it from. I'm going to be using my, what are these? These are my Holbein Paints. I've got my color card here so I can tell you exactly which colors I'm using. I'm going to set those off to the side. I will be using my set of Roubloff Kolinsky brushes here, and I'm going to be using, this is actually, I've done some other stuff on here, some practice, but this is a piece of Arches watercolor paper, 140 pound. I'm going to try, let's see what I can do here. I should say I have a new camera. I hope it's going to be able to focus a little bit better and get things in better without maybe having the sound of a cat in the background. I know many of you said it sounded like my old camera would purr from time to time. I certainly don't want that to happen. Anyway, so let's just jump in and do this. I'm gonna paint one leaf here and one leaf there and jump around a little bit to try and get everything in while it's as wet as possible. I might mix my own greens from time to time. I'll probably use, I'll get more into it, but the permanent yellow, lemon, and I don't know, maybe cobalt blue. That should make a nice green, but I'm going to start right now with the lightest green I have right here. And Holbein just calls that permanent green number 1. I'm just going to put a light color on, and we're going to see how this looks. I'm going to jump in at no particular order. I'm going to paint this leaf here, and like I said, I'm going to try to leave it mostly wet as I work with this. Should allow me, a few minutes of time to adjust the colors on it while we're painting. And I know sometimes there's a large pause in what I'm saying as I have to concentrate. Okay, so, whoa, I got a fly flying around me. So that is a little lighter than that for me. And I kind of knew it was going to be a little bit lighter than I wanted, and that's okay. I'm going to mix in a little bit of this. This is called, in the Holbein set, this is called Terra Verte. I'm going to mix some of this in, and we're just going to see how that looks. Those two together should make a nice vibrant color. Still maybe a little bright. Hope you can see my color kit over here. Let me check. Yes, you can. This is a little bit of my cobalt blue. I'm going to try to dip it in here. Yeah, see, that cobalt blue really blends nicely with these lighter yellows and whatnot. I know I didn't really use a yellow, but this permanent green has got a lot of yellow in it. So I'm going to drop down to a size 2 brush here so I get a little bit more control. And while this is still wet, I'm going to try, maybe I don't have quite enough water in here. There we go. I'm going to try to add a little bit of color to this so that maybe we don't have to come back and do so much shading for a second go round. Let's see, what have I got here? A little Terra Verte, a little bit more of this cobalt blue right in there, just playing with the color, try and get it where I want. That's close. I'm going to leave that be, go on to the next petal, leaf, whatever we call it. I don't know. I'm going to go with this one here, and I'm going to try the permanent green number 2 on this one. Here we go. Let's see. Well, it's a little darker. I don't know that it's a lot darker, but it is a little darker. Maybe that'll be a little bit better for us. There we go, and Going to put a little bit of our Terra Verte on top of that. Now I like this Terra Verte color. I don't know how they came up with this color, but it really does look like the green of a lot of desert plants. Not a bright green, kind of a duller gray green. Really nice. Really nice. If you drive across the desert, things aren't really bright and green. Maybe not necessarily the desert. At least in the arid regions. I can't talk. The green is not a bright green. It's a dull gray, brown gray green. And I think that this Terra Verte color really kind of captures that. And I wanted to get a little blue in here to get some of this darkness that you can see. I may have gone a little overboard with that. There we go. No mind. I can come back in. While we're still wet, we can still play with it a little bit. And pull a little bit of that color out. There we go. I think that's going to be good. Okay, now I'm going to go to my next non-touching color. I think I'll do this one up here. I'm going to go with my permanent green number 2 again for this one. See if I can get it. Oh, it looks like I just touched a little bit there. There we go. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Trying not to let little mistakes bother me quite so much anymore. And if I look here, this is quite dark in there. I'm going to put, well, I'm going to put a little bit more of my Terra Verte on here to tone that down a little bit. I don't know if I said this. You could be asking, why don't I just start with the Terra Verte and just do one color instead of the 2 colors? But if you look right here at this, because I had a color underneath, a little bit here too, but definitely this one, this is a great example of it. Those colors kind of separate and change and morph and settle out a little bit differently. And this looks totally alive and vibrant. And if I just used one color in there, it could dull a little bit, and maybe it wouldn't be such a, I was going to say a dynamic painting, but it is a painting of a succulent, so it's not all that dynamic. But I think you understand where I'm going. The painting just has more verve, more life to it. If you use a little bit more of the colors. Okay, I'm going to do that. I like that. Nice and dark blue on the inside. I got some lighter colors on the side out here. Maybe we'll come in and adjust that just a little bit. I'm just going to fill in a little bit of my blue that ran right there. Let's see, what's my next non-touching color or not touching leaf I can go to? I'm going to do this one over here. I'm going to go back to my bigger brush. I should say, my brushes here, I have a 5 down to, I'm just looking, down to a size 0 in these brushes. So I'm going to switch them out a little bit here and there, and I'll tell you which ones I'm using when I grab it. So let me turn my picture just a little bit here. We'll just grab that and pull it out. This brush happens to have a nice point on it. So I know I can stick it right in there where those petals, those leaves come together and get right in that tight little area. There we go. Same as before. A little bit of my Terra Verte out here. Looking pretty good. There we go, and looking at my reference photo, it's a little bit of dark through here. I think I will put in a little bit of this cobalt blue. I should say I haven't painted this before, so I don't know that cobalt blue is exactly the right color, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it's going to work out for us in the end. And even if it doesn't, you know what? It's still going to be a nice looking painting when we're done. There we go. Alright, now we got to find when it's not touching or it's touching the smallest amount. This one looks fairly dry. I'm going to jump over and grab this over here. I'm going to go back to my little bit larger brush. Which one did I say? This one? Right there. Come on, permanent green number 2. There we go. Now, I'm not painting a background on here yet. Could have painted something on to start. I just chose not to. We'll probably paint it on when we get to the end. We'll take a look at it and see how it looks. And we'll see what color we want to paint that background, if we want to paint the background. You see our reference photo here just has old rocks and stuff down there, and I think we could probably do a little bit better than that. Let's see, take a little bit of this cobalt blue. There's not a lot of shadow on this side of the plant, but I'm going to drop a little bit in there anyways. I'm just touching and letting the paint run off of the end of the brush, and then I want to come back and just make sure it's going to blend and run out where I want it to. Maybe not so much where it wants to. Of course, we know it's going to do it where it wants to regardless. But I want to make sure it gets somewhere where I want it to. I want some semblance of control of this painting. Let's come up and do this one way up at the top up here. Let's see. I'm going to go back. Use my permanent green number 1. Let's see. Right up the edge. Let's see. I'm going to have to turn this ever so slightly. And ever so slightly this way. There we go. So we should hopefully see these two end up looking fairly similar. I just went back into my Terra Verte here, just trying to dull this color down a little bit. If we didn't do it, if we didn't do this, that color would be bright and shine through, and it's bright. It's bright. So I just don't want to overtake it too much. All right, a little bit of our cobalt blue in here, just where our petal goes, or a leaf. I'm not sure what we call these on an aloe plant. I don't know. Excuse me, I have to just turn this a little bit. Sorry about that. And now while I did that, while I moved it, I got a little bit in that other leaf there. Well, we'll leave that. We'll leave that for next time. I'm trying not to worry about it if it touches and runs. This is my big thing, to try not to overtake it and rework and do this. You know what? If it touches and it runs a little bit, we can deal with it. We'll put a second layer of paint on and we'll cover up, or we'll do whatever we want to. Oh, and I just noticed, look, I touched that leaf, that petal. Somebody will tell me in the comments what these are really called. I would call them a leaf, but I'm not exactly sure that's right. Okay, I'm gonna come in here. Let's see. I'm gonna try to do this one. You know what? I'm gonna get an even smaller brush. This is number 3. I'm grabbing right here. I'm gonna try to do this one way inside. There we go. That's not so bad. Got a little too much water in that mix, but we can deal with that. There we go. You can see, I don't know if you can see. Let me zoom you in a little bit. Let's see. I go this way. There we go. A little bit. I hope you guys can see that. I got quite a lot of water in this time. It's a tiny little spot. And I'm going to put in, it's pretty dark in the center here, so I can feel free to put in quite a lot of this cobalt blue. There we go. By the way, I said I've got a new camera. Let me know how this is working out, if it's in focus, if it's not in focus. I can only see, I've got a, up there it is. Up there I've got a 3-inch screen I can see, and it's not the best. I'm trying to move it so I think it's staying in focus, but it might not be. It might be out of focus. It might be, I don't know. You guys tell me. Let me know how we're doing. It has facial recognition software on it. I know that, but it doesn't probably have hand recognition software. So maybe it's not getting it right. That looks really pretty sharp right there to me. Okay, now, you see this? I'm trying not to worry about that, but we'll get to it. Let's see, I'm going to do this over here. This petal, this leaf has kind of folded over on itself here. This will be a fun one to paint. There we go. I'm just going to grab and paint this whole thing. Okay, we had one small problem. The battery in my new camera, well, it went flat. So now I know the battery doesn't last all that long in this camera. I have stopped what I was doing. Everything is still set up here. Maybe I can zoom out just a little bit. You can see everything is still set up here. Haven't done anything, but we can see on here the yellowish green here, the permanent green number 1, really is a lot brighter than the permanent green number 2. And the other thing we can see is that for some dark, shadowy areas, we're not making them super dark or anything, but that cobalt blue really does do a nice job of indicating shadows. So we're gonna come back around to that, but in the meantime, we've got well, we've got a few things to do here. So let's get back to it. I'm gonna re-wet my permanent green number 2. Come in here on this. You know what I should have done while I was recharging my battery? So I should have looked up to see if this is called a leaf or a petal on an aloe plant, but I didn't. So maybe it's called a lettuce or a peef, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, going back into my Terra Verte, just gonna, well, it might be a little strong there. Just gonna dull that down a little bit. Don't want it quite that bright. That looks good. And I'm not trying, I should have said before, maybe I did. I don't recall. I'm not trying to get that super smooth on there. You can see I've got more here and a little less there. When that dries, it's going to end up more like this with a bit of a mottled, a little bit of an uneven look. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I'm going to go back into my, which one is it? Cobalt blue right here. And just give a dab in there. Let that come out. Kind of trying to take a little guide from over here. We can see there's quite a bit of blue here and quite a bit over here. So I think something like that. Let's just see, and I'm going to pull that out a little bit. There we go. I think that's going to look pretty good when that dries up. I'm going to come over and do, well, I'm going to try to do this one. It looks like we've got a few to do over here. Whoops. Let's see. Like I said, I can tell when I do this. I'm sure you can tell. Start trying to concentrate a little bit, and all of a sudden I get quiet. Like I don't want to. I can't talk and concentrate at the same time. It's a little funny. I notice it. I notice that I do it. I should say it that way. I notice that I do it quite often, and I try not to do it. I just did it right there. I try not to do it. I don't know how it comes across on the video. Hope it doesn't come across too badly. There we go. Got a little bit of that Terra Verte on there. It's gonna give me a nice color. Just gonna dip into. I'm going to look on this one. I think, well, let's see, that would be, well, which one would, I guess that would be this leaf here. A little bit of this blue, not all that much. Just want a little bit to set it back behind that one in front of it, but not too much. Let me get you in a little bit closer. There we go. I think you can handle not seeing me dip into my paint quite so much, and would probably get a little bit more from seeing what I'm doing on the paper, maybe a little bit more. And I can hear a door close, which means my family is probably home, which means I will probably have to postpone this video again once. Not my fault. Well, I guess it kind of was my fault. I didn't have the battery fully charged. And well, this one maybe not really my fault either. But a break I'm probably going to have to take anyways. Alright, I'm just filling this in. I could do this a little faster if I had a bigger brush. What did I step down to? A number 4. Step down to the number 4. I'm going to fill that in. Come on. I know I can do it. There it goes. And I'm going to cover it up. Not cover it up. I'm going to combine it with our other color that we're using, Terra Verte again. I did kind of a review of these Holbein Paints. I like these paints. I think they're pretty good. If anybody has any Holbein paints and they use them and they like them or don't like them, draw me a note. I would love to hear it. Maybe compare some war stories about Holbein. But I got these, just I wanted to do a test. You know, I have some Winsor Newton half pans that you've seen me use, and I have the M grams that you've seen me use. And I saw these on sale, or for sale, I guess I should say is a better way, on eBay, and went, well, I'll pick these up. They were a slightly used set. This one right here, mineral purple, had been used. I'm sorry, mineral violet had been used. It's actually a very nice color. There it is right there. Had been used, and that was the only bit of this whole set that had been used. And so I bought it, and I got it for about half of what I would have paid had I bought the set brand new from, let's say, Amazon or something. So I was totally happy with that. And I've been pleasantly surprised by the paints in general. Okay, so I'm just putting some color on our little one right in the center there. And now we've got to kind of wait for this to dry. But I think what we're going to do while we do that is we're going to put on some kind of a background. And what I want to do, I want to make this really pop off of here. And what we can do to make this really pop off of there is give it a red background. Green and red are complementary colors. They really help to make each other really pop. But I don't want to use just red. So we're going to use a brownish red. I think it'll still work. So I'm mixing up a little bit of light red here. Let's see. Hang on. Let's do that, and let's do that. All right, so here I've got it light red, and maybe we'll mix in a little bit of, oh, I don't know, rose madder with that, and let's see what that looks like. We've got a couple of minutes while we wait for this to dry. Oh, I said rose madder. This one's rose madder. It's probably going to come out looking something like a brick red would be my guess. Just got to wet these a little bit. Rose madder, here we go. And our, yep, light red, and we get something that looks pretty brick red-ish. Rose madder is not playing well with me today. So we're going to have a mix of these two colors in the background, and I hope that there's enough light red, this color, in this so it doesn't look too Christmassy when we're done with it. That would not be good, but still be red enough that it's going to make the whole thing pop off of here. My dog has just walked in to my studio. Wasn't really expecting that. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, I hope that's not going to be too much. I'm gonna tone that down even a little bit further. I'm gonna get some burnt umber and put in there. That's a little too bright for me. I think if we use that, that'll look too Christmassy. There we go. Let's take some of that color out and let's let that get a little bit lighter. And while I do that, I'm going to get in a little bit of, there we go. I think that's going to be better. So a little burnt umber. Maybe we'll leave the rose madder out. We just want that little bit of red color in there to to really set that off, which is my other wet one. This one here, I've got to come over to this side then. There we go. Just pull that out. It's actually pretty easy painting this background like this because we've got these nice straight lines. I know that lots of aloes have these little spurs on the side, and we didn't put those on. I don't think that's going to make that big of a difference. Nobody, I promise you, nobody will look at this and say, oh, that's an aloe, and you forgot to put this on, or you forgot to put that on. What they'll look and they'll go, wow, that's an aloe, and I love the way these colors move and blend in here. Here we go. Is that one wet? That one is not wet. There we go. But that one's a little wet. I'm just going to keep rotating this right on around and try to keep my fingers out of everything. Just going back to my palette. I know you can't quite see. I'm over here grabbing some burnt umber and a little bit of that light red. This bigger area we might want to leave. There we go. A little, oh no! That wasn't good. We might want to leave this a little less unmixed, if that's a word. Look at that. Flipped right up there a second time. That's okay. We'll pull it off, no big deal. Just going to continue rotating this around so I can make a nice, easy pull towards me. And hopefully by the time I get over here, everything is just dry enough that it's not going to run. I noticed I'm doing it again. As soon as I start to paint, I stop talking. That's funny. I'm sure you all have noticed that. You're just, oh, far too nice to say anything to me. I think this is not the right way up. I think that's the right way up. All right, I think this is dry enough. We've got one more petal leaf to go. If I can keep my fingers out of the wet paint, we can probably get this done. Let's see. I already felt my finger in it. Yep. But it's okay. There we go. A little bit of this Terra Verte in there. I got too much water on my brush. Just cool that down ever so slightly. And a little bit of our cobalt blue just on the inside of this. I'm going to do it just about like that, and maybe just a touch back there. Alright, I like that. I like that. I'm going to cover up all these little white spots in there. There we go. I'm really liking that. The only thing we have left to do is we've got to fix a couple of issues here. This area right here where it ran back in, we can take care of. I'm going to come back in with a bit of our Terra Verte. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do that at the moment. I'm going to let this dry real quick because I'm going to be working on that area specifically, and I don't want to get another run in there while I'm trying to work on that. So let's come over to a different area. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take see if I can get this in here. I'm going to take this mixture that I've had going on, and on this side I've had my light green, permanent green, number 2, and on this side I've had my Terra Verte. I'm going to kind of mix those together now. And I'm going to put it in here where I want to make a definite harder edge. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. I want to strengthen this value is what I want to do. And I'm going to put in just, I'm going to strengthen the blue up here too. There we go. And just let that come out. And you're going to see that that is going to look now like that whole thing is just a little bit darker, a little bit more in shadow than it was just a second ago. So you can see the inside and the outside of that. We could go on the outside and put a little shading on the outside. I can't do it right now because that outside is wet. But that's what we would do. And I'm going to turn this just a little bit, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to lay down just a little bit of our mixed color, and I'm going to let that come out and blend all the way out, just a nice gradient all the way out. And then I'm going to, I guess, backfill is what I'm going to say, what I'm going to call it, with a little bit of that blue. There we go. And I'm going to make that a lot bolder. We could have made it much bolder our first time around. But that's okay. This time is fine. Alright, I'm just working my way around. This one over here. A little bit of that green color. Let it come out, and then just softly let it work its way out. All the way out here, and then come back in with a little bit of our cobalt blue. There we go. That's further back there. It's a little deeper in shadow. We want it to seem like that shadow's a little fuller back there. And now you're going to ask, and you should ask, why am I bothering to put a layer of that green back on there? Well, the answer is because I want that blue to flow out, and as it goes deeper, the green is going to deepen a little bit before it turns into that good shadowy blue color back there. So I want to make sure I put some of this green on there. Plus, having that little bit of extra fluid on there is going to help that blue paint to flow right on out. Okay, so here we go. This one, I'm going to bring this way out, this gradient. This is a light one, so I'm going to bring that gradient way out here. I'm going to put some blue on it. Let me get you a little bit wider. There you go. I'm going to put some blue right on here. There we go. And this blue needs to be, doesn't need to be, but it'll help if it's just a bit different than the blue that's right next to it, so we know we've got a definite different leaf there. Alright, so now if I touch that, I think that's just about dry enough. I'm going to turn this a little bit. I know I'm getting a little crazy with turning it. It's easier to do this when I pull towards me. Alright, there we go. Actually, I can do it just from the side. And this petal leaf was so light that I can add a little bit more paint, and it'll help pull it out. I mean, it'll help darken that up a little bit more. And of course, right down in there, we're going to put our blue. There we go. And we're going to let that run out. And now you can already see that big spot that we had there just a moment ago, basically gone. We can't see it anymore. It just totally took it away. There we go. And I've got to, I'm going to grab some blue mixed with green. Out here, we've got a folded over leaf petal. You remember I mixed in some blue at that end initially, and so I want to try to pull that out a bit. There we go. And pull that into a nice smooth long gradient. Perfect, that looks great. The only other thing I think we need to do, that I think we need on here, really, is to darken this blue. Too much water, not enough paint. Darken this blue right in here. There we go. Nice and dark inside there. And I'm going to put some nice green out here. Just let that run out. Nice smooth gradient right to the end. There we go, and that's really down in there. I'm going to quickly drop, just real quickly, I'm going to do a couple more touches on here. And we're going to be done. If I can keep my fingers out of the paint. Let's see. I'm going to give just a little bit of green on here, my Terra Verte. Just want this to look like it's not quite so flat, a little bit rounded. So right along the edge on that one. Right along the edge of this. I'm not going to use any blue on this. I'm just going to use the Terra Verte and let it make its own color. That's a little too much water on that and not enough paint. There we go. That's better. That's better. That's better. Ooh, it's looking good. It's looking good. Right in there. And I think that's all I'm going to do with this one. I think it looks pretty good. It's a nice approximation of our aloe plant. There it is. I hope you enjoyed painting with me. I had a great time painting with you. Thanks for stopping by the studio. We will see you again. Thanks so much for stopping by. Bye-bye.